Welcome to One Angry Black Republican podcast. This is season 2, episode 11, entitled The Chauvin Verdict. Is America a more perfect union? So, my mother texted me, just as the verdict was delivered. Guilty, guilty, guilty. And, I was sitting aside the road, thinking, looking for, some, a broadcast that was broadcasting the verdict. And, I couldn't find anything. We were texting at the moment, and, when the verdict was delivered, she texted, guilty, 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 and it was let's just be honest, it was a milestone. It really was. That was one moment where, you had, stores boarding up in certain cities, their stores, because, we all knew that if the jury came back with an acquittal, it was going to be a reckoning in America. We all felt it, okay? This case was that big. And it was so big that, when I was listening to, Falanis talking about, his brother's, the moment, his, George Floyd's brother, I did, catch his reaction. And a very powerful reaction. Very emotionally charged. Brother Al Sharpton was there. Shout out Al Sharpton. Shout out Jesse Jackson. They've been getting a lot of flack, by the black community. And I'm just here to say, we're gonna, we need a unified front. And, with that being said, Al Sharpton is there. He's at the front line along with, Brother Jesse. So no matter what those men, what their past was like, and we could do the study, we could do the research, we all have our missteps, but those two brothers are still at the front line, and they're, helping lead the movement. So, and don't get me wrong, we are always in movement as black people in America. We are always in movement. Let's just keep that understood. Okay, but in listening to, his brother speak, he said something that really caught me. He said, George Floyd, he said Emmett Till was the first George Floyd. Emmett Till was the first George Floyd. And, I had to revisit the case or the situation with our dear late young brother Emmett Till. 1955. Okay, 1955. An all-white jury acquitted the assassins of Emmett Till. Okay? And for those of you who don't know the story, you should at this point. Young brother, supposedly, ogling at a young or white woman, wife. And, he was from Chicago down in Mississippi. And, he was, kidnapped from his home, shot in the head, truck engine put around his neck, and he dumped in the Tallahatchie River. They find him, and, his head had swelled up so massively, from the water that, seeped in through the hole in the boy's head. Big shout out his mother. His mother, showed that had an open casket. And, the world had an opportunity to see the high level of brutality that the African American, the black in America has faced at the hands of, a legal terrorist. Okay, these oppressors in America, the the master class of Americans that have subjected black people to this status of second-class citizenship has really, used the legal system to their advantage. Okay, one of the jurors, and I think this is a powerful gives us powerful insight into the high level of mental illness of the racists, okay, in America. Because let's just be clear, they're mentally ill, okay? One of the jurors said, because I think they deliberated for like 57 minutes in the Emmett Till trial, the trial of those who assassinated Brother Emmett Till, and they returned a verdict in like 57 minutes, and one of the jurors, an all-white jury, one of the jurors said it wouldn't have taken that long had we not taken a break to go get some pop or to drink some pop. Okay, and I could just hear that Southern drawl arrogance in his words. So 1955 wouldn't have taken that long, and he said this out to the public. One of the jurors, okay, wouldn't have taken that long, okay, to acquit their brother. And when George Floyd's brother makes that connection, and he says Emmett Till was the first George Floyd, off of that backdrop, we did achieve justice so far. Let me just say he was convicted. Okay, that still doesn't mean the judge can't commute his sentence. This situation is still a hot coal. So it's like, and they'll use any, slick way of, trying to, let this man out. So, I'm still thinking about that judge, who, exhibited some bias during that trial, commuting his sentence based off of some of the things that, maybe Maxine Waters had said, but at the same, the quote unquote inciting of violence or riots, if this doesn't go, it's like, I don't trust the system, when it comes to handling with care of black people. Okay. We have been the political football of, warring whites since we landed in these shores. Okay, so is America, becoming a more perfect union? Based off of what this, George Floyd's brother said, Emmett Till was the first George Floyd. So if we look at those two as our bookends, you got, the murder of Emmett Till, in which those individuals were acquitted. And then you have the conviction, the murder conviction of Derek Chauvin, a police officer, mind you. Those individuals who assassinated Emmett Till weren't police officers. They were just your local yokels, but this man, was quote unquote in the process of, taking, of acting on, his duty. He was in duty. Excuse my stuttering, but he was in the midst of, performing his duty as an officer, and he was found guilty on all charges, and now he sits remanded to the state of Minnesota. He's in prison. Okay, he'll probably, likely go through the appeals process. No telling what's going to happen. As he sits in prison, he, stirred up a lot of rage. He stirred up a rage in Harlem, with the execution of Brother Floyd. Just looking at the video again, of his fortitude, his knee, suppressed on, on George Floyd's neck, and, our brother Floyd just begging out for mercy, and we if you from the hood, George Floyd. We got hundreds of George Floyds moving through our community. Okay, we know George Floyd. Okay, George Floyd was one of us. The problem with policing in America is that 9 times out of 10 they're not one of us. They're not one of us. They come into our communities to quote unquote police us. Okay, police us, not protect and serve us, to police us. Okay, there's a difference in terms of, how policing takes place in, black communities where you have officers, specifically white officers, who come into our communities. They come in judgmental in so many different respects. You got the constant comparison in many ways between the communities that a lot of these individuals come from and then the community they come to work in. Case in point, this young sister, bite my tongue for not, getting her name before I started the podcast. But the young sister who in Ohio was murdered by a police officer, coming to the scene of an active, fight going on. He sees the young sister with a knife out, and immediately he guns this sister down. Like four shots, murdering this young sister. And, yes, he's gonna, cite plausible denial. Oh my God, I was protecting another young, later for that. I'm not buying that caricaturization. I'm not. Okay, these are supposedly well-trained, militaristic style, soldiers, who come into a situation with calm and ease, or at least they're supposed to. You see, you got to discern. You see teenage girls, okay, and maybe you are. We see teenage girls. We who are from the hood, we are from the community. We see teenage girls fighting. We see that all the time. Sometimes our young ladies can be very, reckless with their mouths and reckless with their spirit, and they go all in, when they're fighting. Okay. I think, and young men too, only young men, they ready to pull a gun out and murder another brother. This is still, at the end of the day, teenage angst. Let's call it what it is. Okay. In some communities, we are constantly in battle. So because we're constantly in battle, sometimes, the complexion of our society might look different, pun intended, might look different. Okay, but switch the setting. Let's say this young officer was working in his own community. Okay, and let's say, he rolls up on 2 white girls and the family's out, everybody fighting. He ain't gonna be so quick to pull his hammer and depress depress an entire community. He's not gonna be so reckless and so, assured of himself to do that. Let's call a spade a spade. We can sit up here and play this plausible denial game as much as we want. But they don't have no care for, black loss, the loss of black life. A 16-year-old girl, he don't know the circumstances, nothing. He just rolls on the scene. He see, a girl with a knife, wielding a knife, ready to, she got one arm on the young lady. This lady is kicking back. Shoot her in the leg or something. Shoot her in the butt. If you got to pull your hammer, shoot her in the butt. Let her jerk a little bit. I'd rather deal with a young girl getting a stab wound, as opposed to a young girl losing her life. Okay? Because I don't think if he would have shot her in the butt, and like I said, I'm not an officer. And that's that's why they have that plausible deniability, because, we lay people, who not officers, to chime in on a judgment call, I've been in situations where I had to make judgment calls. Okay, intense judgment calls that, were, as a matter of fact, when you murder someone, when you pull your gun and you shoot him 4 times, okay, 4 times he shot that weapon. And it's like, when we double back to look at the circumstances, and no, it's not a rush to judgment. Okay, a white officer murdered a young black girl, period. And we have got to include the racial component. There's no way around this at this point. Everybody wants us to suppress the racial component. Oh, it's not about race. It's always about race when black people are concerned. It's always about race because you know why? The knife hasn't been pulled out of our back all the way. So it's always about race. It burns me up, when, white people are always saying, oh my God, it's not about, well, some white people are always saying it's not about race, not about race. Why are you always so race conscious? Da, 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 da. OMG, are you kidding me? Why are we so race conscious? Oh my God. These people are absolutely race conscious about everything. As long as we stay out of their communities. That's racial, a racially charged reality. Are you kidding me? You're kidding me. It's always going to be about race until race is not a problem. And race is always going to be a problem in this country. Like Du Bois said, it is the number one problem in America is the color line. Okay? Now it's a color wall, but that is the number one problem in American society today is the color line. The color line. And that racism that plays out, it plays out in this microaggression, where, we're supposed to, now you want to look at us because we're angry now. And we're organizing and we're enraged at, the constant brutality that takes place in our communities. LeBron should not have taken back his tweet. He should not have done that. He should not have done that. And, Candace Owens, I'm convinced now that, you have abandoned black culture. Candace Owens has abandoned black culture. And, we're going to let her go. Because, ultimately, there's going to come a moment where this society is going to shift. There will be a paradigm shift in this society. And people are going to be held to account. Okay, the greedy are going to be held to account. The oppressor is going to be held to account. You can't exploit people and take advantage of people's lives. Puff Daddy, you're an exploiter. You're an exploiter. You're a capitalist. When you take advantage of people, look at the artists that you work with that you took out of the hood, quote unquote. You took these kids out of the community. You took Biggie out of the community. You took, G-Dep out of the community. You took Black Rob out of the community. Knowing that they, in many ways, were unprepared socially for the America that they were walking into. You took them out of the community. You exploited them. And I know that's a little off topic, but the exploiter, it doesn't matter at this point whether they're black or white. That's my point. Okay? Candace Owens is exploiting her experience in the black community. She's exploiting her experience in the black community. Because she's wrong. She's wrong. It is racially charged. Race is at the center of most of these issues. All of them, to be honest. Because ultimately, until you start making mistakes and shooting white kids. Dante Wright, shot by mistake, quote unquote, because a trained officer didn't know the difference between a taser and a gun. Come on now. Yelling taser, taser while you're firing a shot into this man. Another family down for the count. Gotta go bury their young. No. We need a paradigm shift in policing our communities. No one seems to, well, not no one, because there was a whole movement of the defunding of police and all these other measures that, some communities were, looking for. But there has to be a paradigm shift, okay? So in answering the question, are we a more perfect union? I would have to say no. I would have to say no. Are we a more perfect union? No. How can we say, okay, this brother was, this man, okay, because he ain't my brother. Derek Chauvin ain't my brother. This man, or this boy, this whatever you want to call him, because he's not a man. This coward, okay, who showed no mercy to this black man. He put his knee on his neck knowing he was dying. His knee felt the death happening of George Floyd, and he sat there and he let it happen. That man lay prostrate. That man, lay flat out. Lay flat out. Not moving. This is minutes after. People are telling him, and, people in there, screaming out for, to get up off this man, and he just refused. He murdered that man in cold blood, and we, 9.5 minutes. Okay, we saw the tape, 9.5 minutes. Okay. He was convicted. He's in prison. He's remanded. Rewind to Emmett Till, 1955. Black people were still being lynched. Okay? So, you go from lynching black people to kneeling on the neck of a black man for 9.5 minutes. And you can say that we're a more perfect union because a jury convicted, and mind you, we're talking about the whole world was outraged over what happened to George Floyd. The whole world was outraged. There were way too many eyes on America for them to get that wrong. There were way too many eyes on America to get that wrong. And then the threat of, an uprising, they had to convict him. Okay? This is a country that makes strategic decisions. They make strategic decisions and then act. Some people who have either come from a family line of American strategists who put their families in a position of power, because of the work they did, or they just have white skin privilege, or, the privilege of money and resources, success is handed down. Success is handed down to the next generation. Some people who don't attain wealth in any of those generations, those are the ones who maintain in poverty. And in most cases, yes, there are, a lot of minorities, whether black, Hispanic, Asian, who have achieved wealth or status in America, who have status in America. Okay, there are many. And, there are still a plethora of Americans who are not in those tax brackets, so to speak, who are, filling in, the lumpen proletariat or the working class, the proletariat, who are, millions of Americans who are, trying to get by still. A more perfect union? How? How are we a more perfect union? We got a conviction, yes, in this particular case. But at the same time, now we're dealing with, Dante Wright. Okay, he's our next feat. He's our next situation. Okay, we got a family grieving right now on Dante Wright. And we're talking about the big cases. You know what I'm saying? For every big case, though, there are, how many smaller cases have happened all around the country? Okay, yeah, we see the big cases, and that's why I say, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson right on the front line. When them big cases happen, that we need our big names at those cases. That's why those brothers are there. They get there. They walk those families through those moments. That brother said, George Floyd's brother said, he said, see Miss Gardner. I told you we was gonna get justice. He said that speaking of Miss, Sister Gardner, because those families are connected. Garden and Trayvon's mom. And all of those other, individuals, I'm saying, who lost somebody. Now we dealing with Dante Wright. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of factors to look at. You got to look at a lot of factors on this one. You got to look at, Young, and I'm going to get her name. Matter of fact, I might just, dedicate an entire podcast, to this situation. Matter of fact, I will, next week, I will, do some research this week, and I'm going to dedicate my podcast 12, to the young sister in Ohio, because that is definitely a telling case. Okay. And it's also going to speak to this idea, is America becoming a more perfect union? We're going to tackle this question moving forward. Some people are quick to, exonerate America. Oh, America's getting better. We had a black president, you know what I'm saying, who drank Flint water. We had a black president who drank Flint water and said it was okay. And I love Barack Obama. Don't get me twisted. I love Barack Obama. But he drank Flint water. There was a chink in that armor. Okay? There was a chink in that armor. And unfortunately, chinks show up in armor, when there's a disingenuousness that is pervasive in the vessel. Okay? This is why we love Jesus so much. Because, there were no imperfections in his vessel. Okay? He said what he meant. He meant what he said. And, he was God incarnate. He was God on earth for us Christians. Okay? He was God. And he was a radical, and he was revolutionary because he overturned the money, the tables of the money changers. That's why he overturned their tables, knowing they were coming after him, because he had integrity, had honor. Many of us don't even know if we have that kind of fortitude or honor. I don't know what's going to happen if somebody walk up to me and be like, listen, here go $1 million, B. Here go $1 million. I don't need you to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm going to weigh the options. I'm going to consider. I'm just keeping it real. Keeping it 100. I'm going to consider. I'm going to think about, that having that $1 million and that financial security and that all that comes with that. You know what I'm saying? So thank God, the devil hasn't tempted me there. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to be a radical, when you ain't got nothing. It's easy to be a radical when you don't have anything. The test is when you have something. You know what I'm saying? When you have something. That's the test. When you have something, it's like, how do you spend your money? Do you bring your money down and, give it to the community? What do? Many of us haven't been tempted in certain respects. Like Ambrosio. Okay? One of my favorite novels, The Monk. Ambrosio had never suffered temptation. He'd never been tempted before in his life. Grew up in a monastery, never been tempted. And, a young woman, what I'm saying? He never fornicated. Never had that temptation. Until one day a female, young, woman who, disguised herself as a monk and got close to him. And one night she disrobes and reveals herself to him and reveals that she had fallen in love with him. And the way he looked at her body. Oh my God. It's like every single fiber in his being, his manhood came alive. And he tore into her flesh. Okay? Tore into her flesh. All of them sermons he had given about, not falling to temptation, those fiery sermons. And then the one moment he's tempted, okay, he tears into that woman's flesh and ends up killing her. Okay? So it's easy to talk a talk. More difficult to walk a walk. So, we're all human. We're all frail in that capacity. Okay? So I'm not going to, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I'm saying? But Barack did drink Flint water. Okay? He did show us in the black community that, we have there's a price that can be paid. Okay? To keep us impoverished in so many respects. Okay, poison. These people have been poisoning us, since we got here. And the knife is still halfway in our back. So to heal, the wound cannot be healed. So if the wound cannot be healed, for black people, this is not a more perfect union. This is the same shit, a different toilet. That's what this is. George Floyd's killer, Derek Chauvin, hopefully you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Period. Case closed. On to the next one. Just like LeBron said, you're next. On to the next one. That officer has to be held to account. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for releasing the footage. Okay, Ohio Police Department. Thank you for releasing the footage. But your policies and your ways of policing need to change. Period. Especially where black people are concerned. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired of burying our young and burying our people. Especially in a country where there are a whole lot more, white people than black people in this country. We break up like 10% of the population. But yet, we're our face and our deaths are all over the news constantly. A more perfect union? No. This is not a more perfect union for us. It's like that Frederick Douglass moment, where he's invited to speak on the 4th of July at a celebration. He couldn't believe that they would bring him, a former slave, fresh off the plantation. They would bring him to celebrate Independence Day. And he told them like it was. This ain't our independence. What is your independence to us? And what is your more perfect union to us? The Constitution did not include black people. Black people were not considered when the Constitution was written. Period. Black people were not considered when this country was being built. We built it, but we were not considered as part of it. Period. And that's just bottom line. That's bottom line. A more perfect union? No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As fast as we deal with them and get, get quote unquote justice, we got a whole nother dozen to deal with. And those are just the highlight ones. Black people are suffering in this country, and we have been suffering in this country. We just learned how to suffer in silence. We just learned how to suffer in silence. Keep our head down and keep pushing. And we got to, raise our eyebrow to black people like Candace Owens, who is constantly, appeasing the oppressor, constantly appeasing, the terrorists. Because what these people are doing is terrorism. It's terrorism. You're trying to intimidate a people who can't be intimidated. Can't intimidate us. All we've been through in this country. You don't intimidate us. You kill another one of us. We bury him, we pray, and we keep it pushing. We keep going to work. We keep getting up. We keep participating. And slowly but surely, we are coming into our zone, into ourselves. So no, this is not a more perfect union. Rest in peace, George Floyd. We got some justice for you, brother. Rest in peace. We got some justice for you, brother. Derek Chauvin is away, where he needs to be. Let him deal with that situation. Let his family deal with that. He made that choice. He made that choice. He made that decision. Now he has to be held accountable for it. So we got some justice for you, brother. But we We just scratching the surface. That knife has to come out of our back all the way. That wound has to be sanitized. That wound has to be cleaned out and cleansed to avoid infection. And then that wound has to be sealed. And time needs to take place in order for us to heal properly. And then we got to go to therapy. We got to heal emotionally. And then we got to go to, social services agencies because we got to heal socially. There's so much work to do, to maintain our balance as these people constantly knock us off our pivot. Next week, like I said, I'm going to deal with this young sister. I don't want to just spit her name and not know it. I got it on the tip of my tongue. But like I said, I'm going to dedicate next week's podcast to this young sister who just lost her life to this Ohio cop. Who's next, by the way? So LeBron, I get it, you got it, you beholden to the NBA and their, racism and their bias. So I get it, you couldn't say what you needed to say. But you was right. This office is next. You gunned down a 16-year-old in our community. Okay? Something has got to change. Something has got to give. You know what I'm saying? And the sad thing about it is he probably could sleep at night. He can still sleep at night. Because many of them don't look at us as human. Which is why it's so easy to gun us down in the street. You know what I'm saying? But we have seen a lot of fights take place. Okay? And we've seen weapons come out. Girl spit a razor out of her mouth, $150 across the field. We've seen a lot of this. Okay? But getting gunned down in our community, that's going to stop. That got to stop. Police, you listen, that got to stop. So, with that being said, one angry black Republican, and I'm out. Peace.